So, what would you do if you were talking to a child and they started to tell you about a case of child abuse? This situation is commonly referred to as a disclosure. Firstly, you need to make time for the child. The most common time for disclosures is on a Friday at the end of the day. Unfortunately, you're going to have to calmly delay all of your other plans in order to make time to speak to the child. Just be aware of this and be willing to act if you think a child is trying to tell you something important at a time that isn't the most convenient for you. Next, stay calm. However difficult the situation is for you, just think how difficult it is for the child you're talking to. Just try and think about what they're saying and take your personal emotions out of the situation. This really isn't easy, but it's their disclosure and it's really important to them that you try and listen as attentively as possible and try and take the emotions out of the situation. A key point for you is not to investigate. That's simply not your job. As a student volunteer, your only responsibility is to listen to what the child is saying and to try and remember it. Don't ask leading questions like, what time and date did that happen exactly? Or, do you remember what they were saying at the time? That kind of discussion is not your responsibility at all and should be left to trained professionals later on in the process. You are just the initial receiver of some information, not a trained investigator. So, just try and listen as naturally as you can. Show that you understand, but don't ask prying questions. As with any other natural conversation, nod when someone is talking and affirm that you've understood. One thing you definitely can do is to thank the child for being so brave and for talking to you. It could have been really difficult for them to have told you what they have, so make sure they know that. Finally, and very importantly, you cannot make a promise to keep the case a secret under any circumstance at all. You're going to have to pass this information on. If you're asked by the child to do this, simply say something like, I'm going to have to tell someone what's happened so that we can make sure we get this sorted out. Or, I'm not going to be able to keep it a secret, as to make sure things do get better, I'm going to have to ask someone for help.